Hi everybody, Russ and My Hammers 11. Hope you're safe and well. For this channel, please consider subscribing, hitting the bell notification so you're made aware of any time we put new content on. Loads of great guests, loads of great fans all over the world, and we're going back to Scotland today. Back to Scotland. It's Iron United's own. It's Anton Baker. Hi Anton, how are you, man?
Yeah, good. Thank you, Russ. Really delighted to be on the show and quite excited about it, actually. It's been quite tough to decide, but yeah, really good. Thank you, Russ. Thanks for having me on.
It's the one Zoom call everyone wants to have, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Yeah,
it's good fun. How's everything going for you? Obviously, you know, lockdown and having to still produce content for Iron United and stuff like that.
Yeah, do you know what? It's been all right. We lockdown itself. You've obviously spoken to my dad, so it's been pretty tough. We've actually got a big family.
Yeah,
I've got 2 kids myself. My wife, we're at home. Currently, she's furloughed. I'm working from home, etc. And we're quite a big, large family, so we're fortunate enough to live reasonably close to each other. But we're in a little bit more stricter rules than what the rest of the country are. But that's all been okay. But what's been quite good is trying to keep busy with the channel, and just trying to get content out for fans. Now, we just have a bit of fun with the channel, and one of the reasons why we started it, and I get my dad involved and I get other people involved, is just to try and get a different opinion. And you know what, we're not really bothered about it. It sounds really bad, but we don't aim for views, we don't aim for subscribers. If people watch, they watch. If they don't, they don't. But it just gives us a bit of a hobby and something fun to do, and talk about West Ham and hear the history and hear the stories, and I absolutely love it for that reason alone.
Yeah, no, I'm totally agree. It's all about just sharing sharing stories, isn't it, really? And sharing all the different sort of experiences, and everyone has a different experience. I mean, you know, I remember when this has only been live for like, I don't know, 6 weeks. I'm like, it's just gone mental. And I remember one of the first people who I interviewed, he's another YouTuber, Gonzo. Sorry. So I just came out then when I interviewed Gonzo. He was like, I just think people are going to get everyone's 11's going to be the same, and it's not about the actual 11 itself. It's about the journey to have an 11. Do you know what I mean? So like, obviously your dad's journey started in 54. You know, so there was like 66 years of heritage, so to speak. To this.
Oh yeah, it's amazing stuff.
And that's stories. What's great. The stories. I mean, I interviewed a lot of the guys from, they've got like there's always little pockets of groups of fans, you know, Facebook groups and stuff. And so the Upton Park Life group, you know, you've got girls like Jackie Hughes, who was used to have a stall and used to work on the stall next to Frank Lampard's senior's stall and Harry's stall and John Childs' stall and all that. It's brilliant. As you said, football is secondary to West Ham, because if it was the main thing, none of us would be West Ham fans.
It really is. It's just the claret and blue just gets to you, and that's it. It's just everything West Ham's just, you know. I sometimes say, I'm going to try and save a bit of money. I'm not going to go into the shop and buy stuff. I can't help myself. I'm like a little kid on Christmas Day when I'm in that shop buying stuff. I can't help it. It's just everything I want. I want to wear West Ham stuff all the time. Even though I'm not doing it now. I'm not doing it now. But obviously I need to, you know, my wife needs to look at a reasonable, presentable man sometimes. So
same as me. I know exactly what you mean. I mean, yeah, you're totally right, and it's just the sense of community and stuff. And as you said, you get that with obviously the stuff you guys do, Irons United. Obviously, we've had Stelios on, and you know, some of those guys, and obviously I'll come in on and chat to you guys soon as well. So, and that's what it is. It's just about different opinions, everyone's got a different opinion,
and it's great, Russ. I mean, I've managed to speak to a couple of ex-pros and I've been in up close and personal, and in particular we've done Frank McAvenny, and I know you've had him on your show, but fortunately for me, he golfs 5 minutes from my home, my doorstep. So I was fortunate enough to go to his golf club, and I sat with him for over an hour and a half to 2 hours, and it was just great fun. And I felt like he made me feel like his mate. And it was and I was in his environment, but I've met him a few times. I've been fortunate enough to meet him a few times anyway, because of him living in Scotland. But I think what he loves is the fact that he couldn't get his head around that I had the accent, but I only wanted to talk to him about his West Ham career and nothing else, not his Celtic career, not a St Mirren career. It was just his West Ham career. So I think he always felt he had to give me the time, and I loved it. I was like, this is brilliant. Like, I've had a pint with him, and he's just a great guy, really good guy.
And do you know what? You're so true. And it's all of them. I mean, everyone. I mean, I've been as I said, I've been extremely strict. I've been like a kid in the candy shop, to be honest. It's like, it's just weird, you know. It's like, I don't deliberately, and I name drop people, but I don't mean to. I'm more like surprised more than anything. I've managed to chat to Frank and Tony and people like that. And you're right, every one of them makes you feel a mate, you know, and it's
100%,
it's incredible. I mean, you know, we've got again, you know, like before we filmed, I was texting a certain Ghanaian right back for us, but that narrows it down, doesn't it? But I mean, you know, I've got a few people lined up who we're going to be doing post lockdown because they don't really like doing Zoom calls, and one of them was, you know, West Ham's greatest Scottish right back. And, you know, he phoned me up and we spoke for he said, I can't do it. I'm not ignoring you, but I don't like doing Zoom. We must have chatted for like an hour about football.
Yeah, I've been on the same phone call to the same guy before. He's not a fan of being online at all, is he? No. So it's quite funny. Yeah.
But it's amazing. And then he obviously signs it off. It's like, I've got to go now because the tea bags have just dried on the line. So I've got to bring him in for it rains. Love it. Absolutely love it. So for you, Anton, obviously your dad's a massive West Ham fan. So was that the natural progression, sort of, you know, circle of life thing? You became a West Ham fan?
I think it was for me. But the funny thing is, I'm the youngest of 6 kids for my mum and dad. So my dad's obviously an East End boy. My mum's, she was born and bred in Ireland and she moved over to London. That's how my mum and dad met. They had 3 children down in London before they moved up to Scotland and had 3 more children in Scotland. And the funny thing is, even though all my family, brothers and sisters, are what they would describe as hardcore West Ham, they probably never took to it as much as I did.
Yeah.
And it was from very early that I've got extremely early memories of being a West Ham fan. And I love it, especially during lockdown. Mum and Dad have been looking through some old pictures and have found images of me as a 3-4-year-old wearing West Ham pajamas, West Ham strips, even ones I forgot that existed.
Yeah.
So I think it was just all those. I don't know if Dad just thought, you know, this is my last chance to get carry on the flame, the West Ham flame. So I'm going to ensure by maybe not forcing it, but maybe putting subliminal messages out there just to make him wake up and see claret and blue. Every single day he's going to see claret and blue, and then he's going to tell me the story. So yeah, it was a no-brainer for me. I just obviously listened to the story. I mean, you've had Dad on, and the stories are immense. They're brilliant. I love listening to them.
Yeah.
And also growing up as a West Ham fan, living in Scotland with my accent, I was very in a fortunate position to go to a lot of games when I was young. Very fortunate. So I know there's not a lot of people that could, from early 90s, travel down from Scotland to London and go and see games. But I was one of those fortunate fans that got to go to quite a few games. And sometimes getting questioned because I had the accent. It used to frustrate me, but it made me it pushed me on as a fan and made me want to know the history even more. So when I talked to Dad, and then growing up, we used to get a channel on a very well-known digital channel, and it used to be the Sky Sports Gold. Yeah. And they used to run all the old games.
Yeah.
And Dad would say to me, and I know Dad's, you know, he's been part of the era of Bobby Moore, Byrne. He always goes on about Ernie Gregory. He goes on about all these sorts of players. Unfortunately for me, even though I wasn't live to watching them, I got to watch the reruns. Yeah, and when I watched the reruns with my dad, I watched his passion come through.
Yes.
And then I felt like I started to understand what it was. And then it's funny, when I chose my 11, I based my 11 on the 11 players that my dad chose because of the style of play that they've got.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I've kind of tried to mirror, but that's just natural. That's just what's happened.
Yeah, of course it is.
But yeah, it's just always, I mean, there was never, I got questioned all my life, who's your other team? Who's your Scottish team? And I was like, West Ham. Who's your Irish team? West Ham. Who's your football team? It was just West Ham. Yeah. Dad will back it up. Christmas morning, I only ever asked, what do you want for Christmas? West Ham. What do you want for your birthday? West Ham.
Yeah.
I got the stadium jacket. I remember getting the stadium jacket for the first time. And I think I must have been like 11 or 12, about to go into secondary school. And I remember I wanted it so bad, but I was also starting to get a bit of like, I wanted to look good when I went into school as well. Yeah. And this stadium jacket was huge. And it was, I think it was Pony. It was Pony was made it. And I went into school, my mum and dad were like, you're wearing that, like Santa bought that for you, you're wearing that stadium jacket. I went in and everyone was looking at me and I was all puffed up and they were like, why West Ham? They just couldn't get their head around it. And it just, that was it. And I used to be quite, I know you write down some stuff and you go and do a little bit of like research on it, but Something else I used to do was when we used to watch the games, I used to write my own. I used to write down the 11 that West Ham were starting with, the 11 that was going to be against us. And West Ham, I was a junior hammer, so they used to send out all these little packages.
Yeah.
And one of the packages was a match review package. So I used to sit and write down my take on the full game. And I would do the substitutions, because I think you used to buy the Hammers News magazine, and it used to give you at the end when people were substituted and things like that. So I got really into the stats and who was playing and where they came from, and it just grew arms and legs. And
No,
and I mean, my wedding day was just, I mean, my dad will back it up. I mean, I don't know how I managed to get all the West Ham stuff in it, but I did. I managed to.
Likewise. I remember when I got married, I went, look, do what you want. You can do what you want. I just have a slight view on the colour scheme.
Yeah.
What? I said, you can have what you want. You want to, I don't know, pick a mix machine. You want a chocolate, you want a hog roast, whatever. You know, we literally threw everything at it. I said, but I just want claret and blue as the scheme. And she agreed at the time, and then afterwards it became more claret and cream. There was less, less blue. Then we put a little, it's like, our wedding song was the Dean Martin version of Bubbles and stuff like that.
Oh, love it, right?
Subtle. But,
definitely got that in more than what I did. I mean, I've got all the groomsmen and myself, we all wore claret and blue socks.
Yeah.
I had a claret bow tie. Everyone else, they had to go with grey, but I had obviously a blue suit. Named all the tables after the famous West Ham players or stadiums, and done a few other the cake. Well. We
didn't have the cake. We had my sort of groom's car was we hired an old fitted out camper van. Like a Volkswagen, which was baby blue, and I put the claret ribbon on there, which pulled up to this stately home. It looked a bit like, oh god, in retrospect. And we did all the favours. We did Bobby Moore Foundation favours.
Great,
I did try. I never the gift for all my groomsmen and my wife was West Ham shirts. So they got she got Mrs. Budden, and she wasn't too happy about that one, but it doesn't matter. But that's what you do. As you said, it permeates your life, doesn't it? As you said, and it's not about the football, but it's about the community and as a togetherness. And
100%. I mean, I've got 2 kids now. I've got my boy Freddie, he's 4, my daughter, she'll be turning 2 in July. And again, like, we wake up in the morning and I say to Freddie, what do you want to wear today? And he's like, West Ham strip. I mean, I made the conscious decision when he was born, I was going to buy him every single, at minimum, home strip from birth to whenever he's eligible to go and spend his own money.
Yeah.
Just to have them.
So never then.
I've got the memories. I've got the BAC windows. I've got the Buckter top. I've got it all. And see, when I picked that top out, Russ, albeit I will never fit in them again. I love looking at them. It just transports me back.
I know what you mean. Yeah, I did that with my daughter. My daughter was she was 3 days old, and she was in the she was due in the playoff final against Blackpool, and I had a front row ticket, and I was chaperoning Bubbles or Hammerhead, one of them, around the ground, so I wasn't going to miss that one. I've got a picture of her 3 days old in the playoff trophy. So she was somewhat scarred from an early age, bless her. And I did the same thing with you. Same thing with you, like bought the kits.
You know what? See that memory though. I've got something similar. The last ever game at Upton Park. Myself and Dad, we obviously we've got season tickets, but we only had one season ticket. So we had a ticket for Upton Park, Manchester United, and Dad was going to go. Dad was going to go, and he actually turned round and he said to me a couple hours before the game, "Listen, son, I've been there. I've seen it all. I've seen us win absolutely everything. You can have the ticket." So obviously I was an emotional wreck, blah, blah, blah. I got to go to the final game. But before that, hours before that, myself, my dad, my family, were all wandering around Upton Park, Green Street, just wandering around, soaking in the atmosphere. There was a lot of people, as you know, that were there. But my son was 7 weeks old, and we're standing at the World Cup winners statue, and I'm getting pictures up there holding my 7-week-old Freddie, and my dad's there, and the ITV news reporter came up and went, "What's going on here?" And I said, "I'm here with my dad, and this is my boy." And he went, "3 generations?" And I went, "Yeah." He said, "Can we film you?" And we went, "Yeah." And he said, "Watch the ITV news at 10 tonight." And I went, I kind of just ignored him, thinking, okay.
Whatever.
After the game, hours later, my phone went mental. and we were the second story on ITV News, and I've still got the clip to this day. So he just talks to my dad, me, and my boy, even though he's 7 weeks old.
Yeah.
He's just gargling in the camera, but it's just a nice little thing to show
them.
Yeah,
it's lovely. It's lovely. I'm the same. I mean, I was the same with my daughter. My daughter, and I made her. I mean, she has no recollection of this, but I think I was about 2 or 3. She would have been, and at the old ground, obviously, I had my pass on me, and I could not break in. That's the wrong word. But I could get in there easily, to say that. And I've got a picture of her on the pitch, basically, at Upton Park, because now she doesn't. Now she only knows West Ham play at London Stadium, which is what the idea of the move is. It's for the newer generation. But she went for a period where she was really not into West Ham, but like the kit. Then she went a bit sort of slightly away, and then obviously the emergence of the West Ham women's team, and we live like 10 minutes away, Rush Green, from the Rush Green training ground. So she starts getting into a bit more, which is nice. But yeah, we'll see. Anyway, we can talk about our children all the time. My daughter, who and I did try and get her christened. There was I was trying to get a West Ham, and it never worked. But no, she wouldn't let me. I would love to. So my daughter, Carlos Paolo Budden. No, Florence.
I love it.
Yeah, but that didn't work. Bless her.
Yeah.
So obviously, as you said, things like that, Upton Park, last game was amazing, and you said being season ticket sharing it and stuff. Loads of great memories. Loads of great players you've seen. As I said, we're doing this 11 thing. This Hammers 11, and so obviously your dad's provided his on, which is brilliant, because I've never heard of half those players, so I've got a lot of research to do after, which I'm looking forward to. Keep me busy in between not having football, between the games where there isn't football, which is good. But for you, Anthony, in terms of your 11, obviously we do say we have to be alive to have seen them play. So I did have to. Wasn't so stringent on your dad because he'd seen them all, obviously. But for you, who would be between the sticks? Who's your goalkeeper? You've seen a lot of good goalkeepers in your time there.
Yeah, I really have. But I mean, for me, it's got to be Ludo. I can't not have him in. I mean, I've loved some of the goalkeepers we've had since, but everything that he did, that's something I had failed to mention, was I was mascot for West Ham when I was 12 years old. So I was quite a large, I mean, I'm 6'4" now, so I was quite tall for a mascot back then. And even just going back to that, the memories of him at the time, I've hit a shot against him. I've scored a goal against him.
Of course, yeah.
But going back to the memories of like the Manchester United game, for example, the famous game where West Ham stopped Man United winning the league and helped Blackburn win the league, and just how commanding he was in the box, and he really was. And I loved he was so passionate all the time, and he was always constantly screaming and shouting. And we've had a couple of keepers that haven't done that over the years, recently in particular. And I just love when they're command from the back. For me, it was a no-brainer. I think, was it Lou McCarry that brought him in?
Yeah. He brought, despite the fact he wasn't around for long, look at the players that he brought in. Obviously Ludo, and he did the swap, didn't he, for Waldy, for Morley and Bish, and
absolutely.
He did bring in some good players. Right, I put Ludo between the sticks. That's a good shout. Okay. Let's go, because I don't have to worry about you and left arse and right arse and inside forwards and stuff like that. Right, let's go left back, traditional left back.
So, if anyone's watching who does see me before, as of yesterday, I shaved my head again. Yeah. I used to shave my head when I was a kid, but it was always a battle between my mum and dad. Stop it, don't. The reason I used to shave my head as a kid was because of one man and one man only, and that was Julian Dix.
Oh, it was David Speeder. Julian Dix, defo.
The Terminator, met him lots of times. Off the field, he's an extremely nice man. Yeah. Very, very nice man. He's got a lot of time for his fan base. And on the field, he kind of sometimes comes across extremely different than he does in person. He had his aggression. And when you watch him play, you talk a lot about the modern day wing backs. Julian Dix was forward all the time.
Yeah.
He came forward all the time, and he used to feel like he dragged his feet getting forward, but he'd get forward reasonably quick. And then he'd be 30 yards out, and you think, just shoot, why not? Like, just shoot. And he scored some belters from out there.
He did.
But just to even like his penalties. I remember that game against Manchester United of Peter Schmeichel when they first got the miles per hour to, they'd done all that mathematician stuff, and I think they said if Schmeichel had actually put his fingers to the ball, it potentially could have broken his fingers at the time. This used to smash that ball into the back of the net. The game against Tottenham, I can't ever forget that game. Like, it was him that just G'd up the team. He just had everything, really, to be honest.
Totally.
And I was fortunate enough to be there for his second debut with West Ham against Southampton. And my mum took me to the game, actually, and she with my two sisters, and it was so funny. My mum was just a bit like, oh, we'll just hang off at the end of the game when everyone goes. And we ended up getting, I don't know how we did it, we ended up walking through some doors, fire exits, etc., and found our way down to the tunnel. And Dixie was getting interviewed on the telly, and then he came over and spent a bit of time with us. And it was just me, my mum, my two sisters, and Dixie and the cameras, and we were just getting pictures, talking away to him. So just a great guy, just emulate West Ham, everything West Ham.
He is, and I used to love the way it was, and to a lesser extent, Scott Parker used to do it as well. Where literally you just look at them, and the game's not going our way, and they'd go, right, fuck it, I'll do it myself. And and he would just drive that team. He'd drag them by the collar, almost. Although he didn't have one because he ripped it. But
he used to. Did he not have the record for the most amount of goals scored for a defender in the Premier League for a while? Up until kind of recently, I think. But I mean, you couldn't really. I heard another story about him. I think he used to take a bath with his boots on. I think this story was told by Peter Story. When I was mascot, myself and Dad were on the tour of the stadium, and he was giving us some secret stories, etc. And he said that Dixie used to have a big bath in the changing room. Remember the huge?
I remember saying that.
It took them like hours to keep it up running and keep it warm. And Dixie used to jump in it and put his boots on to make sure they moulded around his feet.
You could see that. It makes sense. It does make sense.
Yeah, it makes sense.
It's like, isn't it, when you had to remember when you used to wash your own boots and you had to stuff them through the newspaper so it didn't they didn't dry out and they didn't sort of lose the shape. Right. We'll put Julian in right back then. Anton, who's going to be right back, man?
Oh, I don't know. I really struggled with this one, but I think I think Steve Potts picked it for me because I know he could play several positions along the back, but he was a proper servant for the club. He really was. He was always calm. He wasn't like your kind of. He was just your right back that stayed in the right back position. If he played there, he didn't have to run forward. You didn't really need him to run forward. And I just always thought. I've just got great memories of him. He was always presented really well. He never got really down and dirty. Again, like the opposite to what Dixie was. Dixie was all over the shop, but he was. I think I liked Potts because he was a class player. He had class. He had the ability to tackle. He could read the game really well. And I kind of like players like that, as well. So definitely. Steve Potts for me.
Definitely. And, you're right. He didn't have a hair out of plate. A bit like Mark Noble. Just looks like a. Just look presentable, didn't he, as a footballer?
But I struggled with that one because I also thought about Tim Breaker, and I'm like, great memories of Tim Breaker as well. But Steve Potts picked it for me, definitely.
Yeah, put Potts in. Good shout. All right. And obviously, under 23 coach as well now. So, back at the club, which is too right. Right, I'll put Potts in. Let's go centre backs. And Anton, who's your first centre back, man?
I think everyone probably sits here and struggles with all these positions, to be honest. But I used to play centre half, so I just love watching players and obviously growing up listening to Dad's stories and listening about Bobby Moore and the style of play. So I'll give you my first one, which is the most modern one, which is Winston Reid.
Yeah.
When he signed for the club, he was unknown, completely unknown. But what he's done out with his injuries over his West Ham career certainly will never go unnoticed with me. He's a quality central defender, and in my opinion, is one of the reasons why we don't perform well on the back these days, because we don't have a Winston Reid type player.
Yeah.
He reads the game so well. He can play the ball from the back. He can tackle. He can jump up and he can win headers. And of course, as we know, he can go up front and score some goals as well when needed. In particular, you can think of games like the Millwall game, which I was there for, which is a bit mad, crazy game. And then, how can we ever forget the Manchester United?
Go down.
But he is just, he's 2010 he's been with us. And I know the last couple of years have not been great in terms of injuries, but I tell you what, Russ, I really hope he can come back somehow and kind of fill in that kind of Ginger Pelly role, like, come off the bench if needed, because he's still got a lot, in my opinion, to offer to the club. I know he's maybe on a large contract, but Winston Reid is...
No, definitely.
He emulates a lot of stuff that maybe my dad talks about with an old centre-half, an old-school centre-half.
Really no, I get player. It. Yeah. I remember when we signed him, wasn't it? There was this big fanfare. We've signed a World Cup defender, and it's like, oh my God, we're getting Cannavaro. Oh no, we're getting someone. No, New Zealand centre back. But he came from Denmark. He came from West Ham, didn't he? And I think I agree. I think he was, and particularly, I think his sort of West Ham career sort of really hit home when, from obviously when we went down and that sort of period, because he sort of, and he was, Liverpool were sniffing around for him, weren't they?
And Arsenal, he continued that form into the Premier League, and he performed at the highest ability in the Premier League for years after we got promoted in the Championship. And just unfortunate, I think it was the game against Swansea, I think it was, that he got a really bad knee injury, and that's just what's kind of flicked on it. And
happens all too much for us, doesn't it? Unfortunately, when you do that.
But I mean, I've bored my dad to tears with telling him how I think Winston Reid is one of our best modern era centre halves we've had. Definitely.
No, I think so. I totally agree. Right, who's Winston going to partner in the middle then?
I really struggled with this one, but I've actually gone for Mark Reaper.
Yes,
Mark Reaper. So obviously we had him and Bilic at the back, and we signed him on loan originally. And again, he was kind of reasonably, he was kind of unknown. He wasn't massively unknown, but he was huge. He was huge. He was so tall, and he was just your typical, I look at Reaper and I've tried to compliment him beside Winston Reid, but I'm also thinking, like, I remember him because he was just the guy that would go up and win the header, go out and win a tackle first. Winston Reid would stand back and sweep up behind him.
Yep.
And that's what Mark Reaper did. I mean, he chipped in with a couple of decent goals, but his career at West Ham, I mean, he played over 70 games for West Ham. A lot of people don't really think like that, a couple of seasons there. But he's just huge, Danish defender, took no crap. Really, and like you said, it's your Hammers 11, and I just got really good memories of Mark Reaper.
Yeah. No, exactly. Nice. I mean, I had Ian Pearce in my Hammers 11 because he was like, I used to love it when because again, he used to cut up a few goals. I mean, he played 70 games. I think Reid's played almost 200 games for us, and something like that as well across 10 years. So yes, as an experienced centre back pairing, I like that. And Reaper again, a different one. He's not necessarily the one who comes up all the time, but he often gets spoken about when we're interviewing players around that era, because I think. They have a different perspective on players. And I think that's really cool.
I look at that era, Russ, as well. I look at that era, like the era before. I mean, we finished fifth. I can't remember what year it was. Was it
97, 98 under that? Harry,
And we were in modern. I mean, if we did that this year, we would be one spot away from the Champions League. That's a huge thing. I think, and players like Mark Reaper were the kind of start of that drive to move forward. We were consistently finishing like 10th. 9th, 8th,
you're right,
7th, and then moving our way up, and it was the kind of the transfer market. We were dipping in reasonably well at that time before it all went wrong.
Just like our dreams, they fade. I mean, that's what always makes me laugh. That whole song epitomises being a West Ham fan. It's our Wart song, and it's about things dying. You know what I mean? But anyway, right, okay, we'll put Reaper in. Let's go left wing. Then, Anton, who's going to be left wing for you, man?
So my midfield is a little bit mixed up. So I've just put in 4 players, and whoever fits in that way.
Yeah, go on. Who's your first one?
I've had to put in Matthew Rush.
Yeah, good. Matthew Rush. First time. Good shout. Good shout.
Russ, I remember being at a couple of games. He was one of the most talented young West Ham breakthrough players that I remember as a kid watching live, seeing him play. Great winger, fast, pacey, clever on the ball, chipped in with goals. He had everything in abundance. When you read into him now, it's really interesting to see, and maybe the reason why his career never lasted as long as what it probably should have. But it looked like he didn't really want to be a footballer when he was a kid.
No.
And that's probably what held him back. But for me, watching a player like that on the wing, coming up, kind of unknown, fast, pacey, tricky. Fortunate enough to not, we don't call the East Stand. I sat in East Stand, the chicken run that Dad used to sit in. used to hear all the stories about the chicken run. And I was fortunate enough to see him there and witness him. And I just kind of always felt like when he was running up, we were going to do something. When he was running up and down that wing, West Ham were going to he was going to be a pivotal part to West Ham scoring a goal. And he did do that in the couple of seasons that he performed for us. So he's one player that always racks up there, stays there. Matthew Rush he's that kind of unsung hero for me. I just love him.
He was like Matty Rush, there's Matty Holmes as well, weren't there?
Matty Holmes.
Those type of players are just
running around.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. All right, we'll put Rushy in. Okay, who's your next one then? Then Anton, who's your next one, man?
I've gone for Berkovic.
Yeah.
I mean, during that era of those Berkovic, Sinclair, Di Canio, I mean, it was funny. It was brought to my attention again recently because I was watching something on the channel that was showing Di Canio's goals throughout the whole career.
Yeah.
The amount of times Berkovic assisted him, you just forget.
So.
But he was so clever on the ball, wasn't he? He got the ball again. You thought something's going to happen when he's got the ball. He done the kind of, he was like Scotty Parker. Like he used to do the 380 turning round in circles, but he had the skill to go with it, where Parker used to just do the circle that way. Berkovic would do the circle, do a nutmeg, stop the ball, send the player that way, bring him back. He was just so clever. Yeah. And he was part of an exciting time at West Ham, and he chipped in with quite a few goals for us as well. So I loved him. And again, he was a bit of an unknown entity really when he came. Yeah, he was, and obviously we've interviewed Johnny on the channel, and he credits his season that he hit 26 goals or whatever. Vast majority of, I mean, there was no surprise that season was the first season that he played with Berkovic, and they're still they're very good friends now. Yeah, I love it. Because the famous kick.
Yeah, and it's funny because we interviewed, and again, I hate name drop, but it all works. We interviewed Bertie Brayley, who was part of that '99 Youth Cup team. He scored, I think, he might have scored 6 goals or something like. He scored an incredible amount in that final, and his first and probably only training session with the club, the first team, it was him and Joe Cole were summoned over by Harry. Was that day. And literally 5 minutes in, right, get the boys away, and that was it. That was it. And it's just it's funny how it all works out. All right, we'll put Yal on. Good old Yal. Who's next?
Trevor Sinclair.
Oh, yes.
I remember, I don't think anyone would ever not remember that goal he scored for QPR, the overhead kick outside the box. And I think that's really what brought his attention to me as just a football fan. And then you kind of kept an eye on his career at that point, and then you start to see the goals he scored and how influential he was for QPR. And I remember when West Ham signed him. I think we signed him in a double deal with Andy Impey. Do you remember Andrew Impey?
Yeah, I remember. Andy
he never had the greatest of careers in comparison to Trevor Sinclair, but he still performed for us. Okay-ish.
Right.
But when Trevor Sinclair signed, I was absolutely buzzing, so excited.
Yeah.
And he lived up to all the expectations. He was, he scored goals, he assisted goals, he scored beautiful goals for the club. Diving headers, volleys. I haven't watched it for a while, but I think you could probably go and find his West Ham goals, and probably nearly every single one of them were quality.
Yeah.
But he was just so influential, and I met him once actually when I was a kid, and he was just great as well. And that makes a long-lasting impact on me.
It does.
When you meet someone and they're really nice to you, and they're respectful of the circumstances, and on top of that, they can perform to the highest level on the pitch. So Trevor Sinclair for me. Yeah,
no, good shout. And he's one of those players, one of those ex-players. There's not many of them about who really still interacts with people, with fans on Twitter and stuff, and it's like the modern day autograph, isn't it? Getting a like from your player, and it's like, and he likes lots of our videos. Obviously, it's basically saying how good he was, and he's been picked for it. So it's like, well, of course, you're going to like it. But
I thought his career was rewarded when he was taken to the World Cup.
Exactly. Yeah.
And he completely deserved that. He completely deserved it. And it he was one of those signatures when he left the club. It kind of broke my heart a little bit, because he wasn't. He was up there with a lot of fans' favourite players, but he wasn't the favourite player probably all the time. I went and got this shirt with his name on the back, because I just thought he was a fantastic, fantastic player for West Ham. Small, tricky, fast, pacey, everything
Yeah,
he could offer.
He was brilliant. And I tell a story about my granddad, God rest his soul. His eyesight was going when we used to watch it. And we was front row of the centenary upper. So we had really good seats, but he couldn't. And he still fucking drove to the games as well, which is worrying. But he sat there and he's like, anything that was done by a West Ham black player, if it was good, it was Trevor Sinclair. If it wasn't, he's like, oh, only bloody player on the pitch, that man. Yeah, that's Shaka Hislop, granddad. But yeah, okay, no problems. But it was that type of thing. But he used to love it. But yeah, Trevor Sinclair was brilliant, absolute ace player, and a lovely guy as well. Right, I'll put Trev in. Okay, let's go next. Who's next, Anton?
My last midfielder. I mean, it's really tough. Like you've mentioned there, Matty Holmes. I mean, I've got great memories of Matty Holmes running up down that wing.
Well, it's like Matty Holmes, Danny Williamson. I used to love Danny Williamson.
Yeah. Michael Hughes.
Yeah, Hughes.
He was quite Ian Bishop, John Moncur, all them.
Yeah.
But bit of a random one.
Good.
Mark Vivian Foy.
Oh, first time to come up.
So he was at Lens in France. He was linked to Manchester United.
Yeah.
He got a really bad injury. He came back and Manchester United looked at him again.
Yeah.
But we managed to pull him in with Di Canio at the same time.
Yes, I remember.
That season he gave to West Ham, Mark Vivian Foy, was the reason why he moved on in his career. Really, to be honest, he was fantastic in that year. He was, you look at players like Traore for Man City, box-to-box midfielder, big, strong, tall, pacey, can go box-to-box, can tackle, can feed the ball to another player. He was clever. He always found the pass.
Yeah.
Everyone talks about the Di Canio goal, the volley against Wimbledon. And if you rewind, they always talk about the Trevor Sinclair ball, but they forget about the job that Mark Vivian Foy done up to the lead up to that. And it was so influential to the side that year in particular. So I know it's a bit different, but
no, I like it.
He's always left a long-lasting memory.
And that's the idea. That's the whole point of this. Is players that leave a long-lasting. And I mean, Foy, he then became the blueprint for that, as you said, for that big athletic centre, defensive sort of box to box. You look at you look at Vieira, and you look at he was the one who was. He was the one everyone wanted, that sort of athletic. And to be honest, I think we kind of missed it. It. I know we got rid of Czech to Palace, but I think you need that energy, and we haven't got that.
Yeah, 100%. I think we kind of lose a bit of sight on, if a player drops a bit of form, doesn't mean we need to sell them. You don't sell a player because they lose a little bit of form, and even if they have lose a little bit of form over 10-ish games. I know the modern game's very different now. But it's a bit like fans slagging off Lanzini, but we've got to give him a chance. I know he didn't perform that great the other night, but still got. If he finds any form that he used to have, he'd be a great player for West Ham again. And it's a little bit like Kouati. I know he wasn't performing to the highest level, but he had that energy, that pace, and you felt like there was fight in the middle of the park. And that's when Foy was in our side. If you were Di Canio looking back, if you were Sinclair looking to the side of you and you seen Foy there, you were like, I'm protected. I'm going to be protected.
He's just imposing, wasn't he? He's just the imposing character. And it was just a muscle. It was just huge. And I think, I think you need, obviously famously, that was sort of basically Big Sam's mantra, wasn't it? He'd bring in loads of big centre halves, big centre midfield players, when we had like Abdoulaye Faye. Do you remember him, Abdoulaye Faye? God, dear. I love the way it just randomly popped into my mind. But
a lot of it just comes out there, doesn't it?
That's sort of like, you've got that sort of strong athletic type, and that's what I think you need in the modern game, particularly nowadays. I mean, you look at the impact. I know it was a speedster, but the impact obviously Traore made on Saturday. He's just a muscle. We've got one, but we've got one in Antonio, but he just can't get fit enough. He could be our Traore if we had everyone fit, because he was just made a difference.
But Traore is a different ballgame.
He is. But you know how he come on and you just knew.
Did you see the muscles on him?
When he was taking his top off, I know. Every bloke. I was fortunate enough. I
was like this.
I know. It was funny. I was watching. I had a few. Obviously, people invite me to Zoom parties and stuff. So I had a couple. Like when I was still working, had it on in the background, and literally I looked when then every bloke was like, "Oh, like it's these muscles here."
Yeah.
I just can't get. Obviously, I've got.
Oh,
But it's
my
like
word.
those ones, like Jesus, and he had that vest. Oh God.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, no.
Appreciation for the man, definitely. But
anyway, okay.
We'll go back to Foe. Good, yeah, great shout. Let's cut front quickly. Who's going to be your first striker, then, Anton?
Tony Cottee.
Yeah.
Fortunate enough, I was actually at his second debut for West Ham. We were at Anfield. Myself and my dad went down to the game, and he got sent off famously in the 50th minute. I mean, after that, I think he scored 13 goals that season. And I got to see, I mean, when Tony Cottee came back to the club, he did perform to a similar level that he did at before. It was just maybe unfortunate we didn't have other strikers like the McAvenny beside him who would score another 13, 15, 16 goals. So I think I was lucky enough to be in that year that got a chance to see Cottee play and perform really well in the Premier League for West Ham. The small man, the small guy who would pop up fox in the box type of player. But he worked hard for the team. He came back, he tracked back. But I love dissecting games and watching players make runs. I love it when you get a striker who anticipates the ball, even if the ball doesn't come. But as long as they anticipate that ball, that's what you're told when you're a striker, even though wasn't a striker. Just make those runs, and if you've got a clever enough player there, they'll put that ball in front of you.
Yeah.
And that's what Tony Cottee done. And if he had players there behind him to feed him, that's what happened, and that's how he was successful, especially in the 86 season with all the players that were behind him then.
Exactly. And obviously you love your stats, and he loved his stats as well. So you're both stats, man. But yeah, no, he's good. No, yeah, TC, good shout. And again, it's one of those. And there's a few who are, I call them Roy of the Rovers players. He's a West Ham, and even more so for TC. Scoring on the debut against Spurs, amazing. And he is a Roy of the Rovers player, and and I think West Ham fans love an academy, a local boy, one coming through and playing for the club they support. And obviously we've had him on, and he speaks very, very candidly about he didn't want to leave to go to Everton. He was sort of forced a little bit, and as soon as the first opportunity came to come back after. Because obviously he got booed when he got back, and when he came back in an Everton shirt, and then there was the testimonial game, and he came on the Boston game and the Bobby game, and he came back and he got cheered, and that sort of started the cogs going for the comeback. And he's a great guy, and he's obviously still around the club. Absolutely. He's still an absolute crazy fan as well, which is great. And again, another one, Sinclair, who's really vocal on Twitter, and I think that makes a huge difference to fans.
100%.
And I love TC. Right, okay, we've got TC in, and the final piece of the puzzle. Who we got?
I really struggled with this one. I mean, my first really good memory of a striker for West Ham was Trevor Morley. I'm not putting him in the side, but he scored great goals for us and a lot of goals for West Ham.
He did.
He was really influential for us in his time he came. Then you've got other ones like John Hartson and of course Dean Ashton, who I think every fan agrees with this. If he never got that injury, he probably would have gone on to massive things for club and country, probably. Yeah. But I don't know how I could not put this guy in, and it's Di Canio, to be honest. So obviously, been living in Scotland, he played for Celtic up here, and some of my friends were Celtic fans, and I didn't really follow Scottish football at all. But I quite liked a controversial figure, and he definitely was that by abundance. He had it in abundance. So he was controversial when he was up here. He always tried new stuff. Something I remember at the time, I think he took a free kick for Celtic, and the player flicked the ball up, and he tried to hit it on the volley from the free kick, and I think he scored it, and he was just immense. And then when he obviously went to Sheffield Wednesday, and then that push, and Harry Redknapp what a deal that was for West Ham. What an absolute bargain that was. And when he signed, I don't know what I thought at the time. I was probably more excited on Mark Vivian Foy, if I'm being brutally honest. Yeah. Because you were thinking, what are we bringing into the club? But very quickly that went down in my estimation. And it was only the other day, randomly, like I said, I watched, it just came up on the screen, and I ended up watching it. All his goals he scored for the club. Yeah. I think nearly every goal he scored was amazing.
It did seem that.
I seen one against Everton. He did a little ticky tack himself. He's not even passing it to anyone. And then He dinks the ball around the Everton player. He comes 1-on-1 with the keeper, and you think, oh, he's going to shoot it, slot it, chip it. He doesn't. He takes on the keeper, and then he's around the keeper, and he's still got 10 yards to go, and he still runs with the ball. I'm like, shit, even though I know the outcome of it. But he just gave you that, your heart raced all the time when it was Di Canio.
Yeah.
Obviously, the famous goal against Wimbledon. You've got the Arsenal goals. You've got the Chelsea goals. You've got the Bradford game. I mean, the passion when Frank Lampard was trying to take the penalty, and then he was getting hacked, and he was getting hacked, Russ. He was getting hacked left, right, and centre. We could have had 3 penalties. And then he's running up and down the park going, no, sub me, take me off. The guy was just a breath of fresh air, to be honest, at West Ham.
Yeah.
And no wonder he's got legendary status, really, to be honest. And I loved in particular, you mentioned the Intertoto Cup. Like, him and Paulo One-Chop. I love the two of them together. And that showed you how we could play those two types of players together at that time. Like, Paulo One-Chop, at his career at West Ham, he owes a lot to, in my opinion, Di Canio.
Of course, yeah, totally. Yeah. And you're right. Di Canio was just, I've said it before, he was just box office, weren't he? He'd someone you would pay to go and your season ticket just to go and watch him, because it was part of that whole Redknapp era, which for guys like yourself and me, that was probably our most exciting era, because it was like a soap opera. And I said it to Harry himself. It's like you had all these you had Tony Carr bringing in this amazing influx of players, which we hadn't had such an influx, a regular influx for years. You had the wheeling and dealing of Redknapp, like players coming in like you never heard of, or Marco Bugas and all those sort of crazy things. It was just it was like a soap opera. You came to the game. Exactly. You come to the game not knowing what's going to happen. Yeah. And that Bradford City game, it was an incredible game. But parts of those happened in every game at West Ham. Yeah. That was a microcosm of that era, that 5-4 game. And you'd never turn up on a Saturday. We're playing Bradford thinking it's going to be that game. It might be like a 2-1 or 1-0 or not that game that we had, and it happened all the time, and that was partly down to Paulo, and obviously he still loves the club.
Absolutely, and love that, and I think he plays in that, and I love it. I love it.
I think it's brilliant. When I was talking to interviewed Nicky Hawkins from West Ham Fan TV, and he did a on those Q&A evenings, and I always say it because it just epitomised the Paulo, and he obviously Nicky turned up, and Paulo turned up in, as you can imagine, looking like $1 million, with all the Gucci whatever, and bronzed and glasses and the smart suit, and the gentleman, and Nicky said, Paulo, looking lovely. He went, I always dress up for my family.
I love it.
That is Paulo, wasn't it? That was him.
Yeah.
That was him.
Yeah, it really is.
That was brilliant.
His book's a great book. My dad's actually got it signed to my name as well. So, but my dad's managed to keep it there, and his books are great read, absolutely great read. So if anyone's got a chance to give the Di Canio a read, then definitely do that one.
Brilliant, Anton. It's been great, man. And thanks. It's been brilliant. Thank you so much for your time, Anton.
Thanks for having me on, Russ. Really,
absolute pleasure.
Your channel is great to watch. It brings back so many memories. So keep up the good work, mate.
Thank you so much. And obviously, thanks everyone for watching. Obviously do like, share, subscribe. Very humbled with all your messages and comments. Obviously, I read every one of them. And until next time, from me and Anton, take care, everyone. Stay safe and be lucky. See ya.
Bye.